In today's studio session, we are joined by two people at different points in their career who have been brought together by mentorship. A very warm welcome to Chris Packwood and Bob Murray. Lovely to have you both here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely to be here.
Bob, why don't we start with you and your journey into mentoring? How did you become a mentor?
There's two reasons. There's a why and a how. The why is this industry, the gas industry, has given me everything. My dad died when I was very young, and I guess I had a choice in how I dealt with my life. I could have gone the wrong way or the right way. And I turned the right way, which took me to the gas industry. And I didn't have a background in the gas industry like a lot of families do. My father was a sea captain, so it was totally different from what my family had ever experienced. And I said, this industry, I had to leave school fairly early. I was quite a bright lad as well. So I joined the gas industry. I started on a shovel. People say to me, no, you started on the tools. I said, no, I graduated to the tools to get there. And then when I became a supervisor, I won a National Management Award. British Gas invested hugely in me. They sent me to university to do a degree in mechanical engineering. They sent me back to university to do an MBA. So, and also this, I was engaged with IGEM, Institute of Gas Engineers and Managers. And I eventually became the national president. But for me, choosing that path, I never would have got into mentoring, because my mentoring just allows me to give a little bit back to an industry and to the people who've given me, they've educated me, they've fed me for many years, they've allowed me to raise a family, to pay mortgages. So mentoring just gives me that little opportunity to share in the things that I've been exposed to. So that's the why. The how was then, IGEM has a professional mentoring facility, and you're trained, and it's all about professional registration to chartered engineer, to incorporated engineer, or engineering technician. So that's the basis of it. And I also do business mentoring. Sometimes companies like Cadent will ask me to mentor someone outside of and Chris and I have both arrangements. We have the professional IGEM one, and we have a business mentoring arrangement. So that's how I got into it. That's what I do, and I think I've been doing it for over 30 years now, so maybe longer.
Who have you mentored over the years, and what does that process look like? I'm guessing it's different for every person.
In terms of the professional registration, I simply put a process around it. We sign a contract, we agree certain dates where you achieve certain levels of the professional registration, and it's not a tablet of stone. You know, things happen in life, don't they? You know, so, and I've had some experiences with mentees which I felt terrible. One rang me up, and he said, he's going to get me something done by the first week in the new year. He said, Bob, I'm not going to be able to do it. I said, that's all right, it's not a problem. He said, we've lost the baby. I just felt like a monster, you know. Why are you ringing me, you know? And that's the commitment you see in these young professionals, women and men. They are so determined to become professionally registered. It is awesome, it is, and it's a real privilege to watch them. So many current directors, managing directors I've mentored, you know, particularly a number of Cadence network directors. I won't name them, but I also had the privilege in Transco days to be running the first professional intake of students, and so graduates. So that was a great experience, and at least a dozen of those gone on to be leaders in the industry. So it's been a privilege, and it's been great fun along the way, and we do have a great bit of fun as well.
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
as well as the targets and the rest of it. And I'm not the tyrant that they tell you that I am.
Chris, for you then, how did you hear about this scheme that you're on with Bob?
So I started back in 2015. It would have been National Grid at the time on their engineering training program, and it was a really, really robust program. It was run out of a training centre called Eakring in Newark, which I think was an old BP depot during the war or something. Lots of history, lots of training goes on there. And IGEM was sort of part of it was in the culture, and sort of it's very new into the role, into the training scheme. It's get involved in IGEM. Here's your opportunities. The goal is chartership, and at the time, I think my brother-in-law was going through chartership with he's a structural engineer, and my brother with the Chartered Institute of Builders. And I'm super competitive, right? I'm the youngest in my family, so if my older brother's done something, I have to do the same but a bit better or a bit quicker. I've
never noticed that.
So I thought, right, I'm up for this. So I got in touch with IGEM, and the membership coordinator at the time says, Chris, you're in luck. I've got the best mentors come available. Are you up for it? I said, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I said, sign me up. He said, IGEM House next week, Bob's there. I said, perfect, I'll see you there. And then from that moment on, it just sort of, the relationship grew. As Bob said, we start off with the contract, we start off with setting the goals. But then, we go off on tangents, don't we, Bob? And think other things happened, along the way. The goal was chartership at the time. I only had a HNC, mechanical engineering. So we discussed different routes, and I was lucky enough to be sponsored by Cadent for my bachelor's in mechanical engineering that I studied part-time. And the help and support you gave me, Bob, through that was definitely needed. There's some tough time. Part-time study is not for... it's not easy, I must admit. So the support Bob gave me through then, and then, progressing my ING application, becoming an incorporated engineer, and subsequently completing a part-time master's. And recently, I think 3 or 4 months back, becoming a chartered engineer. So it's been about an 8-year journey for Bob and I, but we've finally got there. Really, really pleased. So yeah, that's sort of the story of how we got into it. But there's so much along the way. It's brilliant. Yeah,
talk to me a bit more about what you've gained from this relationship over the past 8 years. Obviously, you've managed to tick off so many qualifications along the way, but presumably Bob has also brought a wealth of not just contacts, but also experience, knowledge. I can imagine he would also have brought some great personal support for you to lean on over the years.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this when I was driving in today, and it's so hard to articulate, the benefits that I've had and how Bob has helped me grow. I think it's so non-tangible, and the thing it clicked recently. And on Monday, I was interviewing apprentices, and I've got a really talented technician who is keen to progress, but he really, really lacks confidence. So I said, right, sit with me. We're doing the interviews together. And me and this individual, I said, I'll do the first one. This is how we do it, and you do the second. And on the second time, when he introduced himself, he said, my name's so and so, and I'm just a technician, and this is Chris. He's the boss. And I obviously the interview carried on, and it was fine. And later in the interview, he says, I just maintain the assets. And as soon as we finished the interview, I felt like I had Bob on my shoulder. I said, right, to the guy next to me, says, right, before we talk about the interview, stop what you're doing there. I would never ever want you to hear you say you're just a technician, and you never ever just maintain these assets. And as I said, I didn't think about it. I thought that is Bob right there, who was saying that to me 5, 10, whatever it was, and I thought it really clicked, and I thought, ooh. I would never have put the two and two, and that's Bob's influence, solely Bob's influence. That is, and the endless times, the confidence. When Bob had his accident and hurt his shoulder, I went to Bob's house for our mentoring sessions, which was excellent.
I think he was trying to tell you something, Chris, maybe. You still went to his house.
I was so badly injured at the hospital bed.
He's like, don't worry, I'll come to you.
Yeah. He was probably thinking, can Chris clear off soon or what? But anyway, so we were around at Bob's, and it was those times when I think I entered the YPPC, which is the Young Person's Paper Competition. It must have been about 2018. I was presenting on a mechanical inspection technique, and Bob sat at the table, and he made me present to him, and it was like I'd be presenting, thinking there'd be a stop. Chris, it's not we, it's I, and just those things, those little gems over time. My confidence, my ability to present, to build relationships. and every meeting we have, there's a little gem in there that now I sort of, they'll never leave me. So can't thank you enough for those little gems, Bob.
Bob, that must be incredible to hear. And for you, I bet, as well as that emotional aspect, I bet there's things you've learned from Chris along the way.
Chris is a true Corinthian. For instance, he didn't have to do his IGEM registration because he was doing a master's degree. He just could have waited. But no, he does everything the right way. He does, and I admire him intensely for that. And the number of times he's heard my mantra about people. Some people say to me, "Oh, utilities." I'm like, stop. I say, can you imagine life without utilities? We can't have civilization as we know it today. And he's heard me say this to people, stop them hundreds of times. Tonight you'd have to go home, dig your latrine, go down to the river, get your water. You'd have to get your kindling for your fire to cook. Make your candles from animal fat. You cannot have civilization without the kind of stuff that these guys do every single day. You can't.
Have there been any surprises along the way in your journey with Chris?
Yeah, lots of them. Falling asleep, and I knock on the door, and there was Chris. Come to see me. When I had my accident. So it was lovely. And he didn't come to see me as a mentor. He just come to see if I was okay, kind of thing. And I had a hospital bed in my living room. So I woke up. Oh, there's Chris. Kind of thing. So and that's Chris. But there's lots of other people who have enriched my life so much through the mentoring. It's amazing. And none of them seem to call their boys Robert, though, which really disappoints me.
Do they not? How cheeky. You did say I could ask you this, actually. So you've mentored a lot of people over the year. Who is the best mentee?
I'm often asked this, and I always answer the same. It's the next one. You just never know who you're going to. But Chris is truly an exceptional mentee. He is. The journey has been amazing together, and it carries on. He's starting his MBA soon, and I'm looking forward to having chats about that, because I was fortunate enough for British Gas to invest in me and send me to do an MBA, which can be career changing. I know Chris will do it in his usual way, which is he'll make sure everything is done to the utmost and his absolute best. I have no doubt about that.
Let's talk a bit about your career ambitions and your career to date. Obviously, Bob's helped you a lot on your journey so far. When you look to the future, what are you hopeful for?
Yeah, I mean, I am really ambitious, but it's really hard to say. What excites me about the utilities and Cadent, the gas industry that I'm in, is the rate of change from, even in the last 10 years I've been in the industry, the rate of change is so fast. Back when I started, I might have had a plan, become a supervisor, become an engineer, become a manager, and so forth. But with the rate of change, I don't think that's required more. And I think it's important to step back from setting yourself targets. And I'm quite old school in how I work. I had quite an old school upbringing. And, I think now if you get your head down and do a good job, the best job, opportunities will come to you at the right time. And not to force it. And Bob, that's one thing Bob always said to me, don't force it. Work hard, build relationships, do the right things at the right time, be noticed in the right ways for the right reasons, and things happen. So I'd be really hard to say what's next. I take my education very seriously. I'm not naturally an academic. I've always been a sort of hands-on person growing up, really into my cricket, into my football, into anything with the ball or the sport really. And from 16 working on building sites with my dad and my dad's friends and so forth, I always wanted to be a builder. I thought, I'll go to university to do civil engineering. Went to University of Nottingham to do a foundation degree in engineering and physical sciences, but found it wasn't quite for me. I wasn't, at that time at 18, I wasn't an academic, and I found the people that I was with were very academic, so I thought, right, let's cut this short. I'm off to go do some work, and then here I am. So I take my education very seriously, and I think not being naturally academic to then study alongside work is something that's really, really powerful. It doesn't come naturally, and I don't find it easy, but I think with hard work, it complements what you're doing at work so much, and Bob's guided me through that really, especially when it came from the bachelor's was kind of a natural, the mechanical engineering bachelor's fit with the role, but into my master's and then now into MBA, doing an MBA, I think me and Bob have had a few, doing a lot of head scratching on that one, and Bob's really helped me with that, and a few other options. So yeah, really excited for the future. It's
a brilliant attitude that you've cultivated and energized together, because you can sometimes get bogged down in the 9 to 5 and forget that, yes. Even at Skewb we have Journey 24, we've got a wealth of options available to us. And I think, as you say, education and work, they definitely go hand in hand when you're looking at someone's growth.
To all my mentees, I say, any learning opportunity that's going to take you forward, grab it with both hands, because that bus might not come along again. And I can remember when I won that supervisory management award, I was put on this course, and I believed I was running the most difficult depot in Wales at the time, kind of thing, and it was, there were memos in those days. It wasn't email. And I opened it up. You're going on this course, and it was an ILM course. I haven't got time to do this. I'm running a business depot, and so I rang my boss up. I said, Chris, this is a different Chris. I think you've made a mistake. You've put me on this course. He said, no mistake, Bob. Going on it. That's it. Phone down, kind of thing. If I hadn't have gone on that course, I never would have won that management award. I'd have been an excellent supervisor, and I'd probably been happy those days, and grab that opportunity every time it comes along, because it may not come along again. And that's one of the advices I do say, because I was that close to throwing away a brilliant career, and that time I had no idea what lay in front of me. And that person put me on that course. I must have been about 27. He said, one day you'll be the president of the Institute of Gas Engineers. He's on drugs, but he saw something in me, kind of thing. At that time I had no idea. It was like, really, kind of thing. I mean, it was the holy in those days that got to that place, but so grab every opportunity, because you just never know when it's going to come along, or if you miss it.
The utilities sector is a slightly older sector, I would say. Do you think mentorship and establishing these sorts of relationships is a key part to creating a more diverse sector for the future?
Absolutely, and we really do need more women utility engineers. And I've had the privilege to mentor some of exceptional young women who've gone on to be chartered engineers, gone on to be leaders in the organisation. We had one here yesterday doing our lunch and learn, for example. Very understated, brilliant woman, PhD, leading her business. So yeah, these yes, I do think it is such an incredible industry. Like, I give the example, I don't believe you can have civilization without utilities. And once people get that, it becomes a different proposition, doesn't it? Because we take for granted. You get up in the morning, your boiler comes on, you open your tap, etc. Your broadband works. It's all taken for granted. But behind that is an army of talented people in the United Kingdom and across the world. So it's a great career. It's been fantastic for me. The salaries are good as well. People don't realise that. Even when you're on the shovel, it's not a bad salary. I can assure you of that. So yeah, it's great, and 2 of my 3 children work in utilities, so it's I tried to stop them from doing it, but they're very happy as well. So yeah, it's a great place to work. I've worked in Argentina, I've worked in Australia, I've worked in Hong Kong. It's an amazing opportunity in life to be involved in utilities.
And when you look ahead to your role as a mentor, what are your hopes for the future, or how do you see that role changing?
I think now, the way Chris came in through the technical report route, there is a drive to up the academic side of it, because you have to bridge a gap, say, between your A levels and a first degree, as an example. That is becoming harder. The Engineering Council is pushing the bar up. So that, for me, I've got to rise to a challenge now, because all my mentee synopses used to just go through like that now they're being pushed back. So it's making me sit up and right, I've got to get the academic level statement correct with my mentee now, or they've got to get correct with my support. So yeah, I hope I can continue doing this. I hope I continue adding value, because the moment you don't, then it's time for to stand aside and let somebody else do it, because Chris will someday be, a mentor. And
what traits do you think make a good mentor and a good mentee?
I think you have to build a trust between you. Everything has to be absolutely confidential, and I think you have to be a good listener. I had to learn that skill. I got the hint. God gave me 2 of these and 1 of these. So there was a reason, kind of thing. So yeah, but I think you have to be able to listen. You have to be absolutely truthful. You can never give praise where it's not due. But when people are going through a hard time, you help them and you say, you can beat this. And then we all get those self-doubts now and again. But and I'm able to give an example. I wouldn't say Chris, but I say, this person struggled with this. Well, you got there, and you're going to get there. But the worst thing you can do is to do any of the technical report for you, because you go through a technical report interview, and if you plagiarise anything within minutes, those interviews will pick that up. And also in utilities, there's it's a very small family of people. And there's less than 3 degrees of separation. So generally, within 2 phone calls, you can find out anything what you want about. So I always say, never plagiarise anything. If you do use someone's work, just cross-reference it. There's no problem with that. So those are some of the things that that I look forward to in the future. But I'm going to have to up my game as well now. So.
I'm sure you'll rise to the challenge, Bob. Chris, for you've gone from the mentee to a bit of a mentor, it sounds, as well, passing on what you've learnt from Bob. So for you, what traits have you taken on or tried to uphold as you move into that mentor role within your work? Yeah,
I think you touched on it, Bob. The listening aspect, it's not that easy. It's not necessarily it's not a natural skill. Some people do it more naturally than others, but that's something Bob does exceptionally well. It's being listening and being level-headed. I remember one time I went into the old Skewb office, and I had not a tough time, but I missed out on 3 jobs on the bounce about 2 years back, and I felt really hard done by. It was, I only just missed it, and the feedback was good, but just not quite good enough experience, this kind of stuff. And I found that really, really challenging, because I really believed I was the best person for the job. And I remember I came in to see Bob at the old office. We had the meeting room downstairs, and I was like, Bob, well, what can I do? There's nothing more I can. I was really wound up, and I went in sort of a bit annoyed, and it was like a week after, and I still hadn't calmed down from the bad news that I didn't want, and Bob just listened, just listened. I got it all out. This and that and the other, and some probably slightly unprofessional, but it was fine in the context. It was fine, and Bob just listened and just gave this level-headed advice, talked through his own experiences, and I just went away and I thought, yeah, that's all right, and the old saying of it's when things are tough, that's when you show your character and so forth, and to bounce back from that. And I think I would have really struggled a lot more had I have not had Bob there to discuss, and Bob would listen to my weird and wonderful ideas. I'd come up with all sorts of stuff. I won't go into the detail, but and Bob would listen, and he wouldn't say, no, you're not doing that, Chris. He wouldn't say, no, you can't do that. No, stupid idea. He'd listen. He'd ask some more questions. Sort of the impact of this. What do you think to that? How might that affect your career? What do you want to do in your life? And this kind of stuff. And then I eventually talked myself around to something I already knew but wasn't quite saying because I was so wound up. I'll go away happy, and that ability to do that, and now step back from that experience and thinking, wow, that is a hell of a skill, from a mentor, and I try to do that now with my team, with people I mentor at Cadent. But it's tough, it takes years and years and years. So I've got a long way to go.
I experienced a similar thing, in British Gas days, they'd have people on a fast track, and I'd see them. But whereas my career, I'd do my job exceedingly well, learn to the best of my ability, and I'd move on and do that, and eventually overtook them. You know, it's just, you know, you become a subject matter expert, and from that then, you know, you move on, and I feel sorry for the people on the fast track because they never get that depth of knowledge. You know, no one could pull the wool over my eyes on the bonus scheme because I pulled every trick under the sun on it, kind of thing. So, say, come on, don't insult my intelligence. You know my background. You know, take it off, kind of thing. So, yeah. So that's one of the things, and I've seen Chris do that. He becomes exceedingly good at what he does, then he moves on. Sometimes you can be held back slightly, because you do become that subject matter expert and the guy that really is, or the girl that really knows what they're doing. But eventually you get through there, and it's just having that bit of patience now and again, which he's not very good at.
I'm working on it.
He's working on it. If you could see the change, that man I first met at IGEM House to now, it's amazing.
I bet, yeah. For you, looking at Chris today compared to the Chris you first met, what difference can you see in him?
There's one that hasn't changed, that desire to do the right thing, to be good at what you do, burns in his heart, and you'll never take that away from him, and his drive, his energy, etc. What I have seen him become is a true chartered engineer. I've described him to very senior people as the gas engineer's gas engineer. To me, he is a true gas engineer. He really gets what it's about, kind of thing. And he's also a true energy engineer as well. So yeah, that's the difference I've seen him. He is a true chartered engineer now. He's achieved what he set out to achieve. And now with his MBA, he's become a true businessman. I know that. There's no doubt about that.
Amazing. Thank you to both of you for sharing a bit of your journey together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.